Hey everybody, it's just my opinion, Bob, and it's January 13th, 2025. Welcome to the new year, if I didn't tell you already. Today I got a couple things I want to show you. One of them is maybe you're all aware of this, and I was the only one that wasn't up until a bunch of years ago. When buying a new or used guitar, this goes for new and used, and I'll explain why after I show you. Everybody has certain things. I'm going to talk about an acoustic guitar first. Everybody has certain things that they look for first, I hope, when you're buying a used guitar or a new one. The first thing I do, I know we all have different priorities, but the first thing I do is I check to see if the body is bowled or the neck is level. And for that, I'm going to use this. Let me make this clear. A carpenter calls this an 18-inch ruler. A machinist calls this an 18-inch scale. My mother used to call it an enforcer, so I don't know if any of you can relate to that or not, but that's that. So anyways, here's what I do. This is the very first thing I do when I get a guitar, and I always take this with me. If I don't have this, I'll use a paint stick. I'll use anything that's approximately this length and anything that's very, very straight. What I'm going to do is I put the straight edge onto the neck of the guitar. As you know, I don't edit any of my videos, so I'm going to tip the camera to show you this, but I don't piece anything together. So you put the straight edge on the neck of your guitar. And as a matter of fact, let me just show you this while I do it, okay? It'll just be easier and probably make more sense. So you take the straight edge and you put it on the neck of your guitar like this, laying right on top of the frets. And what you want to do is you want to slide this all the way forward. And you see what I'm hitting? Can you see what I'm hitting? I'm hitting the saddle. So let's not make any mistake. This is called the bridge. This is the bridge of your guitar. The white, whether it's plastic, synthetic bone, or real bone, this is called the saddle. This is where your string's set on. So here's your bridge, here's your saddle. You put the straight edge on the frets, slide it down, and you want it to hit the saddle, all right? That's where you want it to hit. You don't want it to hit the bridge like that. You don't want it to hit the bridge. If it's hitting the bridge, what that's telling you that the neck is down like this. That's why the straight edge is coming down. And yes, it could be just a neck adjustment, or it could be that the body is bowling in from the stress of the strings and age. So again, I will put my straight edge on the body, and I'm looking for daylight up on top, and there is none. Down here, yeah, there's a slight hump here, and that's from the tension of the wood on the guitar. Some of them have that built in, but most of them, it's from age or the age we live in right now. I don't know if any of you do construction projects or not, but when you go to Home Depot and buy 2x4s, going to Home Depot or Lowe's or a place like that, 2x4s are as green as those lava lamps in back of me. They're so green, I think if you stick them in the ground, you could probably grow the tree again. You go to a lumber yard or a lumber store and you'll get good quality lumber, but that's also what's happening with acoustic guitars. Sometimes they're not using the very best wood, and other times when you pay the money, this wood's been stored for, in some cases they've stored it for 40 years. It's like bourbon. So if the wood is green, if it's not dried out right, it's going to bend, it's going to bow. It can be a brand new guitar and it's going to happen to it. There's no guarantee. And this also happens in vintage instruments too as time goes by, especially with the tension from these strings, the tension that's on the bridge. It just happens. And that same thing applies for electric guitars also. And I'll show you. When you take an electric guitar and you want to check it, you're going to do let me see, we're going to do the same type of thing. I'm going to put my scale on the frets. I'm going to slide it down. And right there, it's hitting the saddle, the 6 little saddles that are on the bridge. It's not hitting the bridge. The bridge is below that there. You don't want it hitting that. That would mean the neck is angled. So like I said, for me, that's the very first thing I check when I'm getting a new or a used guitar. And what does that tell me? Well, what it tells me is this. Can I fix that problem? Can I correct it? Sure. I could adjust the truss rod and maybe straighten it out. I could do a little work, fine. But when I'm going to look at a guitar and I see that right off the bat, how do I know, is the truss rod maxed out? Has it even been used yet? I don't know, because I didn't bring tools for that and to check that. So that's the first thing I check. If that's no good, I will most likely I steer away from it. Now that can also, that thing I just showed you, can also be slight. It can just touch that bridge and go to that saddle. That happens too. And for me, that's okay. If it's that slight, that's okay. But as soon as it hits the bridge, I'm not going to mess with it. Like I said, there might not be anything wrong, and you might be able to fix it, but I'm not going to roll the dice and take a chance. Not if I'm spending a few $100s on a guitar. No, I'm not going to do that. And I've seen this happen a lot. There's a company, I'm sure you're all familiar with this too. There's a company in Tennessee, which you either hate this company or love them, but I don't care for them. And it's MIRC. It's musical instruments. They call it reformication. I call it recycling in this corporation. But what they do is they take the scrap from all the guitar builders, the guitars that have been rejected, and they fix them up and do whatever they got to do to them, and you get them like supposedly like new. They put a new serial number inside. It's a copper sticker that goes over the original serial number that was on the guitar, if there even was one. And then they have to stamp used on the back of the headstock. So that's how you'll see a guitar from MIRC. And a lot of people go in business just selling those guitars. But as a result, those are some of the guitars that maybe that thing I just showed you with the straight edge, it doesn't pass. It does not pass. And there was a reason it was rejected, because that didn't pass. And that straight edge, what that does is it's laying on top of the frets. So that little height from the fret is what takes it right to your saddle. And that's how you know your guitar's lined up properly. MIRC, I mean, I've had some of their guitars, and a lot of people like them and have no problem with it. But the thing is, when you go to sell it or whatever you want to do with it, people are going to know what that was. It was, people that know guitars are going to know what it is, and it was scrapped at the factory. You can call the factory and tell them you've got a certain model, you'd like to know what year it was built. Can you do it? And they'll tell you we didn't build that guitar. It's not ours. There's no such number, because they had scrapped it out. So Alvarez used to do this years ago. Inside on their sticker, it used to have a stamp that said "almost perfect," and that was their guitars that didn't pass inspection, and they would call it "almost perfect." You could buy them. Now they don't do that anymore, I don't believe. They just sell it all to MIRC. I think that's all I wanted to talk about as far as buying a guitar, the things I look for. Of course, I'm looking at other things. I'm looking at the neck and if it's twisted and this, but that's the very first thing I check. So if you check that, you can't go too wrong. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is I'm going to show you my Gretsch. As I mentioned in other videos, I had a Gretsch White Falcon, a 1968 stereo Gretsch White Falcon. And family, raising a family and everything that goes along with that got in the way and had to end up selling, like a lot of people did back in the day. So it's gone. Bought it for $275. I was lucky to get $275 for it. It was a 1968 Gretsch White Falcon. And I bought it in 1972. It was only 4 years old. And Gretsch had a great reputation for guitars, I thought, and a lot of other people did. When I went into the music store, when I first saw this White Falcon in 1968, I went to the music store, and it was in Camilli Music in North Syracuse. And they had a price tag in 1968 of $1,000 on it, because it had all the gold plating and everything, and it was If you know the story of the White Falcon, it was never intended to sell. It was just a showpiece, but people wanted it, so they started manufacturing it. But $1,000. So in 1972, I got the stereo one for $275. I was thrilled. But I have to tell you, this is only a few years old, and this is a lower model Gretsch. And this Gretsch, the quality built in China, is superior to what my White Falcon was. My White Falcon had, you know, the seam down the neck here. It was splitting all the way down. It had all the binding, the gold binding, the metal flake, all coming off. The tremolo, and the tremolo looked like a plumber's nightmare. I never saw so many extensions and knobs and hooks and turns, and I don't know, it just, the quality of this is just superior, and this is not an expensive guitar. So anyways, this guitar comes with a black pick guard. It comes with black plastic knobs. So I saw this, it was white, it was a Gretsch. I says, well, you know what, just for memories. So I went, and the bezels around the pickup are all black. I went and bought gloss, Rust-Oleum gloss, gold spray paint, sprayed them. Got the pick guard, bought a pick guard, channeled it out for the 3 pickup. Got that. Went and bought the gold metal knobs just to dress it up, kind of like my White Falcon had. And that's just enough to relive the memory of having a Gretsch White Falcon. Doesn't have F-holes, it has the cat's eyes on it. So, but kind of neat. Got this from Sam Ash so shortly before they went out of business. They had this as an open box. And what it was, and it came with the hard shell case for $400. And what it was someone, you restring these, you put your strings through the tremolo, the Bigsby tremolo, and you put it underneath your piece here, the secondary piece. Well, someone had the guitar, put the strings in here, and they put the strings over the top. I don't, for whatever reason, I don't know. But anyways, I strung it right, and the guitar is nice, and it relives the memory for me. It's not like my White Falcon with all the bells and whistles on it, but it looks pretty sharp, and the build quality is superior. So, and this is I think the 2600 series, so or the 2200. It's one of their lower ends, but it's hard to find in white. But I did, and I'm glad I did. So I just wanted to make a point where I see a lot of people modifying guitars. A simple thing like what I just did there. I think maybe altogether it was another $70 or something wrapped up in all that stuff I did. People modify guitars and expect, hey, I got this in it, I got that in it, so I got to get this much. No, whatever that guitar was and whatever you did to it is what you wanted to do to it. But if it was a $300 guitar, brand new, and you put $100 into it, and you're telling somebody, well, I got to get this much for it. Well, they're going to tell you, look, I can get the original for $300. So you got to start from there and go down, you know, because it doesn't matter what you did to it. It's what you wanted to do. So don't expect to get your money out of it, especially this year, because the guitar market is in the dumps. It's in the pooper. And I mean the pooper. It's going to be quite an interesting year. What I do see selling a lot of is the Asian imports. There's an awful lot of those guitars being sold. I don't see too many people bragging about the new Martin they bought, or the new Bruce, or any of the Collins or any. But boy, they're all showing these Asian guitars they're buying, and they're just flooding the market with them. And we're flooded already with used guitars. We're flooded with new guitars. The discounts are incredible now on new equipment. You find these sales going on, and it's hard to, for me, it's hard to say no, but I'm running out of room, and Mary's running out of patience. So with that said, I just wanted to show you those two things, and it's for me, it's a key feature, checking that neck with the scale. It's very important. That's the first thing for me when I'm getting in the guitar. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later.